You are listening to the Manumit Podcast. My name is Casey, and I'm here with my buddy Glenn Johnson, investment advisor and founder of Jabez Financial right here in the Uncasville area. In every episode, he is here to break down today's biggest retirement worries and headlines for us. All right, Glenn, let's get into the good stuff to kick us off. As we are starting, I want listeners to really get to know you and how you came to do what you do. So can you talk to us a little bit about why you became a financial advisor in the first place and what really drew you to this industry?
Absolutely. Casey, when I was in college, I first started to discover how significant of an influence money has on almost all of the major decisions we have to make in life. And I figured it would be best if I could understand what it is, where it comes from, and how it works, and what to expect and how it behaves. So therefore, it wouldn't have as much influence over the decisions I made. I didn't want my decisions to be primarily financially based, but I wanted them to be values based. And so once I learned how money worked and how it behaved, now I could remove it from the equation on how I made my life's decisions. Because, I've always wanted to have the freedom without those kinds of limitations. Mm-hmm. And money's one of those things that until you learn how it works, it could potentially have control over you rather than you having control over it. I also learned that when choosing a career path, oftentimes our guidance counselors in high school get it wrong in the sense that they ask us, well, what are you good at and what do you like to do? Well, the answer to those questions is your hobby. Like, I was really good at soccer. I enjoyed playing soccer. That didn't necessarily mean my purpose was to be a professional soccer player. Although I did get to represent the United States, and I played in England, Scotland, and Ireland after high school, and that was fantastic.
Okay.
But I learned that for me, when choosing a career path, had more to do with solving a problem that bothered me as opposed to just something I like to do for fun. Mm-hmm. You find someone that hates disease, they become a doctor or a nurse of some kind. Or you find someone that hates injustice, they'll become a cop or a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Well, you find a woman who hates drunk driving. She formed MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Yeah. And so I looked around and I tried to figure out, well, what problems bothered me? And you know what gets me? What bothers me is poverty. Mm-hmm. See, having an abundance of resources has never corrupted anybody. It's revealed them. A good person will do more good with more money. A bad person can cause more harm with more money. Mm-hmm. But the lack of money, if somebody's really strapped, they may feel pressured to behave inappropriately because of the lack of money. Mm-hmm. And so the lack of money can corrupt. And that's the problem that I'd like to solve.
Wow, Glenn. Wow. Well, thank you for, telling us that story. I always love hearing people's origin stories. I love hearing people's why, and that is really special. So I appreciate you sharing that with all of us. Now, we are called the Manumit Show, and I know the first time I heard the word Manumit, I did not know what it meant. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about the Manumit brand and what that means to you, Glenn.
Well, Manumit to me is the very definition of it is to free from slavery. Like the word manumit is an old English word. In fact, when the slaves were freed here in the United States, they were manumitted. They were given papers of manumission. And so I chose Manumit when I formed my nonprofit back in 2016, Manumit United, was because I wanted to help people increase their freedom in all aspects of their life. I have a program, I call it Winning at Life, and I go through the 5 F's of faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances. And the first 4 are all relationship oriented. But we're not truly free until we experience freedom in all aspects, including financial freedom. So so essentially I chose Manumit as the name for really the very essence of who we are and what we're all about. It's about expanding freedom and creating more opportunity for people to make choices that are based upon what they value and not just on what they can afford.
That is so meaningful, Glenn. I love the message behind the brand. I'm excited that we are doing the Manumit Show together. So thank you for sharing with us more about that. Can you talk to us now about your business, Jabez Financial? What kind of services do you guys offer? What kind of things do you specialize in helping your clients with, Glenn?
Well, I help my clients increase their cash flow and properly allocate and preserve their assets. And it's only as a truly independent financial advisor or registered investment advisor can you really have access to the best tools available. And when it comes to getting your finances in line and properly positioned for what's coming next, it's not just about having access to the tools, it's knowing how to use them. And also having a relationship with somebody that you can work with. My business isn't just around providing somebody with a mutual fund, a life insurance policy, a structured note, or whatever. It's really about providing the education and the relationship. So when we have the education to make better decisions, and we have somebody that we can trust working alongside us, that's what gives us confidence moving forward. The education is such a big part of it. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And in this ever-changing economic environment, has the education we've been receiving been working for us or against us? There's lots of information out there, but if we don't have economic discernment to realize, to be able to identify, if I make this decision, will I be more economically free or will I be more economically enslaved?
Wow. Well, Glenn, you mentioned, forming relationships, and it sounds like your business goes so much farther beyond just the financial advisory and the retirement planning services that you offer. So will you expand on that a little bit for us? Talk to us about how you pair your Manumit brand with your financial advisory services. How does that all go hand in hand together?
Well, Casey, a lot of the time, having a conversation revolving around finances is a lot easier because people really aren't that emotionally involved in their money. They're concerned about it. They're worried about it. They're stressed about it. But they're not so much emotionally involved because we can all admit we could have more money. We all can admit that, if things worked out differently, I would have been farther ahead. So oftentimes our conversations start around improving the economic situation. But once that problem is solved, and you know what? It's an easy fix. Solving financial problems is easy. When you know what the tools are and you know how to use them, fixing financial problems becomes effortless. It's just a habit. But once we get those things in order, oftentimes it'll expose another aspect of life that really does need attention. And that's why, on a personal note, outside of doing the financial work, much of what I do oftentimes leads to mentoring men personally, one-on-one. I also do a significant amount of marriage counseling as well, because when you expose a financial problem, oftentimes it's a good way to get people on the same page. So it's about improving the quality of life really all the way around. So like I said, so we start with a financial topic, and oftentimes that's where we stay. And that's great when people have their lives together. But you know what? Another thing is, we'll find that when people are retired, we help them get their finances in order. They're enjoying life, yet they'll still have a situation where maybe they have adult children living at home that just haven't left the nest yet. So how do we train the next generation to be able to stand on their own 2 feet when they have to work with a different set of financial rules than their parents did? So I know the best businesses out there and the most successful people out there, they have their own, I like to refer to it as their personal advisory board, their own personal board of directors. And they've got mentors, people that they can trust, that can speak into their lives in all areas of those 5 F's, their faith, family, friends, fitness, finances. They've got advisors, personal trainers, pastors, whomever it is. When we're structuring our life in such a way that we invite people that we can trust, that have wisdom that we don't, when we invite them to speak into our lives, now is when we were able to humble ourselves to get the knowledge we need to be able to make things better. Because any problem we have really stems from a lack of wisdom. And that wisdom isn't going to increase unless we're able to humble ourselves enough to be able to receive it. And when we have these strategic mentors that we invite into our lives, the best mentors out there will care more about our success than our friendship. Mm-hmm. And that's where, as a registered investment advisor, as a fiduciary, beyond the legal sense of the term, but from a moral sense of the term, I care more about people's success than their friendship. Mm-hmm. And so when we get together, we're able to make such significant progress because I don't hesitate when it comes to talking about what needs to be talked about.
You're not afraid to talk about the hard stuff. That's really special, Glenn. Like I said, I love hearing people's origin stories and their why behind why they do what they do. And I love that this business goes so far beyond just the job for you. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us and our listeners as we are kicking off the show today. It sounds like you can truly do it all at Jabez Financial. So I just want to say to our listener that Glenn's story has resonated with. Remember that if you are one of our first 5 callers today, we will get you on the calendar for an introductory conversation with Glenn. This is a complimentary consultation. There is no obligation attached. It's just a conversation and a chance for you to get those big questions answered. But you've got to give us a call to secure your spot on the calendar. 860-288-9977 is how you reach us. Again, that's 860-288-9977. Or you can find us anytime online at jabezfinancial.com. All right, Glenn, let's get into some retirement chat, shall we?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if anyone has ever listened to our podcast, then you've heard us talk about risk tolerance. But how do you define it? Well, here is Carrie Hannon with Yahoo Finance. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
It's really how much you can stomach when the markets drop. Are you going to freak out? Are you going to panic? So this is sort of this moment where you have to sort of take a breath and really be honest with yourself. How can you handle the drops? And we see these all the time. And can you wait it out for it to come back? So if a 10% drop is going to make you crazy, then you're not very risk tolerant. But it's important to understand that because this is going to tell you how much you want to be in the stock market, invested in equities, or in cash and bonds, which is a little more steady, and you're not going to have these ups and downs.
So that's the definition. But Glenn, how do you go about measuring a client's risk tolerance? Does this conversation happen during that first meeting, during that introductory conversation?
The conversation absolutely happens. And we really want to define a little bit more in depth what having a higher or a lower risk tolerance actually means. In that sound clip, when she talked about if your account dropped 10% in value, do you have the stomach to handle that? Well, 10% sounds a lot less than if you have $1 million and you lose $100,000. When you put a dollar figure onto that percentage, it matters a lot more. This is why when people are younger and they've got 10 grand to invest and they lose $1,000, it's a 10% dip. Okay, I can handle it. Mm-hmm. But now when you have $1 million and have that same 10%, now you're talking $100,000 dip.
Yeah.
And so, well, maybe I'm not as tolerant to that kind of risk as I used to be. And I find that over the decades of talking with other financial advisors, especially when they're coming out of major institutions like Merrill Lynch and Smith Barney or whatever else, there's so much emphasis putting on finding out what somebody's risk tolerance is. They neglect to find out what their risk ability is, which is far more important. So if somebody comes into the office and says, I have a really high risk tolerance and I can handle 30%, 40% swings in my account, no problem. I'm in for the long haul. That's great that they're saying that when times are good. Number one. The other thing is, do they have the ability to be that aggressive? So you find somebody that's, say they're retired, they're living on Social Security, they've got $20,000 in the bank, and they have no problem taking their Social Security check over here to the casino and gambling all of it. They have a very high risk tolerance. Mm-hmm. They're okay with it. They really are.
They're not scared.
Very low risk ability. right? And then I have clients that maybe they're in their 30s or 20s even, and they just inherited a significant amount of money, and all they want to do is keep it in the savings account at the bank because they don't want to lose it. Well, they have a lower risk tolerance, but a much higher risk ability. And so what we want to do is we want to walk people through obtaining the right education. And with the right financial education, your risk tolerance will conform to your risk ability. That retiree that's taking their Social Security check to the casino finally wises up and says, whoa, I can't afford to be doing this. And the younger person that inherited a bunch of money that says, you know what, I'm missing out on a lot of opportunity here. I need to get an education and maybe take some risks.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of not just finding out where somebody is emotionally, where they stand, where it comes to assuming risk, but providing them with the education that they need to correct their thinking. Because if we're just making feelings-based decisions on how much we can emotionally tolerate, when we're making feelings-based decisions, we're also making emotional-based decisions in an environment that doesn't have any emotion. Your money doesn't love you back. So this is where we need to get smart about it, and then not just make decisions based upon our feelings, but our ability and our intellect and experience.
Your money doesn't love you back. Glenn, you are giving us the cold, hard truth today. But listen, I totally get it. I am that person in my 30s who likes my money right there in my savings account in the bank where I can see it. I can visit it anytime I want. I can get to it anytime I want. So I get it. But, I probably do need to learn how to take more risk because I've got a little more risk tolerance than the average person because I am younger.
Right. Yeah. There is more riskability there. But now, some people, they'll take that rule of 100, and you learn this in financial planning school where they talk about, well, if you're 70 years old, you want to have 30% in equities and 70% in bonds. Or if you're 50 years old, you want to be half in equities, half in bonds. Well, that's one way of looking at it. However, in addition to recognizing what your risk ability is, getting the education you need to have your risk tolerance conform to your risk ability, then there's also the knowledge that you need to know about, well, what season is our economy in? Are we in a long-term secular bear market? Are we in a long-term secular bull market? What's about to come next? Risk, there is no risk in a market that just crashed. The risk comes in before it crashes. And this is where I find that after this last secular bull run that we've had since 2009 to today, there's people out there that say, yeah, I have a really high risk tolerance. I have a really high risk tolerance. Yeah, because the last 16 years have been fantastic. But once it crashes, that's when you find out, oh, well, maybe I didn't have such a high risk tolerance. So this is where having the conversations with people that are not hired to tell you what you want to hear and not hired just to give you what you feel that you want becomes critically important.
Okay. Well, I know you know this, Glenn, being in this industry for so many years, but life definitely has a way of throwing us curveballs, whether it be that unexpected inheritance that you get in your 30s, whether it's you're starting a new job or you're growing your family or there's a change in the market, and anything like that. Any of those curveballs can really shift how comfortable somebody feels with risk. So I want to ask you this. How often are you sitting down with clients to revisit that risk tolerance? Are there certain life changes that, you hear in your head or events and you say, hey, it is time that we need to sit down. We need to talk about this plan again?
That's a great question, Casey, because the frequency that I get together with my clients depends upon a number of things. One of them will be how complicated is their financial situation. And the more complicated it is, the more attention it needs. The other one is economic velocity. How fast are the things changing in their lives? Some people make decisions quickly and move on. Then they're on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it becomes very important that we're in touch very frequently. And then there's people that they're done. They're retired. Their accounts are set. They've got their Social Security, their pension, the savings. Everything's fine. They're not taking any risks. Well, in those cases, maybe we really only do need to get together once a year. Mm-hmm. But sometimes with some of my clients, I'm in communication with constantly because of the speed at which their life is moving. And when people are young and they're just getting started on this financial journey, it's hard to give them a lot of advice until they get moving. It's kind of like you can't steer a parked car. You've got to get moving. Then you can start making adjustments along the way. But once somebody is up and running, they're building they've got their career going, they're dollar cost averaging into their 401k, they're saving consistently. Maybe they're looking to buy a rental house or really get into the mechanics on how their 401k is working. The more somebody is involved and the more enthusiastic they are about learning and making changes, now we've got to talk more regularly. How frequently do I get together with my clients? Yes, I guess is the right answer. Because it's going to be different for all of them.
How often? Yes. The answer is yes. Well, I think moral of the story, too, is that incorporating the help of a professional in general to guide you through these conversations, to guide you through these tough decisions, that's going to be the key to your success here. So I just want to say, if you're listening today and you are looking for answers to those retirement questions, today's the perfect chance for you. 860-288-9977 is our phone number. Or if you prefer online, you can reach out and learn more anytime at jabezfinancial.com. And that's Jabez, Jabez. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manumit Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson, Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.